"If you carry me up the stairs I'll tell you a secret," said the sick little girl. Her voice was barely a whisper floating down from the second-floor landing where she sat bundled in her grandmother's old quilt. The autumn light filtered through the tall windows, casting gentle shadows across her pale face. Harold wiped his hands on the oil-stained rag he always carried and looked up at her. His weathered face softened as he took in the sight of 8-year-old Margaret sitting there so small and fragile. He had come to fix the old furnace in the basement, but something about this child made him pause. The house belonged to Eleanor Whitman, a widow who had hired him countless times over the years to tend to the mechanical needs of her century-old home. Harold knew every creak and groan of this place, every pipe that rattled and every door that stuck. He also knew that Eleanor was caring for her granddaughter while the girl's parents worked double shifts at the factory trying to make ends meet. Margaret had been sick for weeks now, nothing serious the doctors said, just a lingering illness that left her tired and weak. Harold had seen her watching from the window whenever he came by, her curious eyes following his movements as he carried his toolbox from his old pickup truck. "I'm not supposed to carry folks upstairs, little miss," Harold said gently, removing his cap. His grey hair was thinned by 63 years of living, but his eyes still held kindness. "My back isn't what it used to be. But I have something important to tell you," Margaret insisted, her small hand gripping the banister. "The secret is very special and I can only share it if someone helps me." Harold stood there for a long moment listening to the familiar sounds of the old house, the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway, the gentle hum of the refrigerator, the soft footsteps of Eleanor somewhere in the kitchen preparing lunch. He thought about his own granddaughter Sarah, who lived 3 states away, and how he missed the sound of young voices in his life. "Well," he said finally, "I suppose I could manage it just this once." He climbed the stairs slowly, his knees protesting with each step. When he reached Margaret, she looked up at him with eyes that seemed far older than her 8 years. She was lighter than he expected as he carefully lifted her into his arms, feeling the delicate frame beneath the heavy quilt. "Where to, little miss?" he asked. "My room, please, the one with the blue curtains." Harold carried her down the hallway past family photographs that told the story of 3 generations. The floorboards creaked beneath his work boots, but he moved with the careful precision of someone who understood that some moments require gentleness. Margaret's room was filled with the soft light of late morning. Stuffed animals lined the windowsill and books lay scattered across a small desk. Harold could see she had been trying to keep up with her schoolwork despite being unwell. He settled her carefully into the rocking chair by the window, the same chair where Eleanor had once rocked Margaret's mother to sleep decades ago. "Now then," Harold said, settling into the small chair beside her desk, "what's this secret you wanted to share?" Margaret pulled the quilt closer around her shoulders and looked out the window toward Harold's truck. His toolbox sat open in the back, revealing the organized collection of wrenches and screwdrivers that had been his companions for 40 years. "The secret is about fixing things," she said quietly. Harold raised an eyebrow. "I know a thing or two about that myself, not machines," Margaret continued, her voice gaining strength. "I mean fixing people when someone is broken inside, not just their body but their heart." She turned to look at him directly and Harold felt something shift in his chest. This child with her serious expression and knowing eyes was about to teach him something. "My grandmother told me that when people are sad or lonely or scared, the best way to fix them is to notice them, really notice them," she said. "Most people walk through the world feeling invisible, like nobody sees them or cares about them." Harold nodded slowly, thinking about all the houses he had visited over the years, all the people who had let him into their homes to repair their broken things. He realized now that many of them had been hungry for more than just functional appliances. They had needed someone to see them. Margaret continued, "When you came to fix our furnace last month, I was watching from upstairs. I saw how you talked to Mrs. Henderson next door when her cat got stuck under your truck. You didn't just shoo it away, you got down on your hands and knees in your good work clothes and coaxed it out with soft words." Harold remembered that tabby cat, orange with white paws. Mrs. Henderson was 91 and lived alone. He hadn't thought much about it at the time. "And when you were leaving," Margaret went on, "I saw you notice that her mailbox was broken. The flag wouldn't stay up. You didn't say anything, but the next week when you came back it was fixed. She never asked you to do it. You just saw that she needed help. The room grew quiet except for the gentle creaking of the rocking chair. Harold felt something warm spreading through his chest, a recognition of truth spoken by someone far younger than himself. "You see people," Margaret whispered, "that's the secret. The real secret to fixing things isn't about tools or parts, it's about paying attention. It's about noticing when someone needs help and helping them even when they don't ask." Harold looked down at his calloused hands, thinking about all the small repairs he had done over the years without being asked, the loose handrail he had tightened at the Murphy house, the squeaky gate he had oiled at the Johnsons', the burnt-out porch light he had replaced for old Mr. Peterson. He had never thought of these things as anything special, just what neighbors did for each other, but listening to Margaret he began to understand that these small acts of noticing and caring had been fixing more than broken objects. They had been mending something deeper. "Why are you telling me this, little miss?" Harold asked gently. "Because," Margaret said, turning back to the window, "you fixed something in me without even knowing it. When I saw you being kind to Mrs. Henderson and all the others, it made me feel less alone in the world. It made me believe that there are still good people who care about others." She paused, rocking slowly in the chair that had comforted generations of her family. "And because," she continued, "I wanted to make sure you knew that your kindness matters. People notice even when they don't say anything. Your small acts of caring ripple out like stones thrown in a pond, touching lives in ways you might never know." Harold felt his throat tighten with emotion. In all his years of working with his hands, fixing and building and maintaining, he had never thought much about the impact of his actions beyond the immediate repair. Now this wise young girl was showing him that he had been part of something much larger. Margaret reached over and patted his weathered hand with her small one. "That's the secret," she said softly. "The secret is that we're all connected, and when we take care of each other, we're taking care of ourselves. When we fix the world around us one small kindness at a time, we fix ourselves too." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the autumn leaves drift past the window. Harold thought about Eleanor downstairs, probably preparing lunch with extra care, knowing her granddaughter would need encouragement to eat. He thought about his own granddaughter Sarah and made a mental note to call her that evening. After a while Margaret's eyelids began to grow heavy. The morning's excitement had tired her, but her face held a peaceful expression. Harold could see that sharing her secret had given her a sense of purpose. "Would you like me to carry you back downstairs?" he asked. Margaret shook her head sleepily. "I think I'll rest here for a while, but thank you for listening, Mr. Harold. Thank you for understanding." As Harold made his way back downstairs, he felt different somehow. The toolbox in his truck would still hold the same wrenches and screwdrivers, but he would carry them with new awareness. From now on he would remember that every repair was an opportunity to mend more than just the broken object in front of him. In the kitchen, Eleanor looked up expectantly. "Did she share her secret with you?" Harold nodded, unable to find adequate words for what had just transpired. "She's a special one," Eleanor said with a knowing smile. "Always has been. Even when she's not feeling well, she finds ways to make others feel better." As Harold drove home that afternoon, he thought about Margaret's words about noticing and caring, about the ripples of kindness that spread through the world in ways we might never fully understand. He thought about the simple truth that sometimes the most important repairs happen not to machines but to hearts. That evening he called his granddaughter Sarah and really listened to her stories about school and friends. When she mentioned feeling lonely in her new town, Harold made plans to visit the following weekend. And every time he returned to the Whitman house to tend to the old furnace or fix a leaky faucet, he made sure to wave at the window where a little girl with wise eyes had taught him the most important lesson of his 63 years. The secret of noticing, the secret of caring, the secret that we're all connected in ways that matter more than any machine he had ever repaired.